Hello, all. I hope you are well in these extraordinary times. I would like to welcome you all to the Fintech Finance Virtual Arena where we're hosting you all today. In this special arena, today we're going to be looking at innovation within insurance. Joining me today, all the way from Ohio, is Mike Fulton from Nationwide Insurance. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing wonderful, Ollie. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, all good. How's the lockdown effect been on your kind of day-to-day patterns?
It's after a short transition period. It's been pretty much one. It's pretty much been the same. A few more meetings. I have a team of 8 folks that report to me, so a few more one-on-ones just to make sure I'm staying in touch with folks. A few more virtual coffees and virtual happy hours, but in general, day-to-day routine is more or less the same as it was. It's a little bit different now. I am actually back in the office, although you'll see on my video here that I am not in the office today. But we have started bringing people back to the office here at Nationwide. So we're up to about 30% of the organization is back in the office, and within just a couple of weeks we'll be up to about 50%.
Wow. Well, let's begin by having a wee look at the insurance industry in the US as a whole. But let's kind of go back to the before times, the pre-COVID era. What's the problem? What is the single biggest issue when it comes to the insurance industry as a whole?
It's a great question. I would say that the insurance industry was actually doing pretty well in general. The biggest challenges I would suggest are an increase in events. So we were starting to see an increase in weather-related events, severity of weather-related events, a lot of hurricanes, a lot of tornadoes, tremendous amount of wildfires, number of wildfires increasing dramatically, and the impact of all those weather-related events was increasing in the homeowner space. In the auto space, again, what we were seeing is an increase in severity. We're putting more and more technology into our vehicles, and so when you do get into an accident, it's a lot more expensive to fix. And so that technology hasn't yet progressed to the point where it's starting to have a measurable impact on frequency of claims, but it was already having a measurable impact on severity of claims. So trying to get the pricing right, trying to get the value equation right for members is probably the number one thing that we've been trying to address from a nationwide perspective.
Excellent. Well, in terms of getting the value for the members, would you say that's kind of your mission?
So at Nationwide, our mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. And so there's a couple of key things that we're doing differently with this new mission. One, we're shifting our focus from insurance to protection, right? We don't want to just be there and be on your side when something bad happens, although we will continue to always do that. Now we want to help you protect yourself, your home, your business, and prevent bad things from happening. And so we believe that the way that technology is maturing, the way that we're able to interact with people, leveraging technology, it allows us to better understand the environment that they live in, that they operate in, and it is something that we can now leverage the 96 at this point, I think, years of history of claims data of learning about what might happen to help predict bad things from that might happen and help protect people from them proactively. So that's been a big shift for us. The other shift is this element of extraordinary care. Nationwide has always been a big believer in taking care of our customers and providing a premium customer service, but we're trying to, with our new mission, take that to the next level. We're trying to imagine new ways of coming alongside our members and providing that extraordinary care, something that surprises and delights our members in moments of need.
It seems to be across the board with insurance. I like to think, and this may be me being slightly naive, but it makes perfect business sense that if you're insuring someone's home, you're going to want them to, you almost want to educate them, you want to help them prevent anything happening to it. Same with cars, you don't want someone to have an accident. Same with pets, you want that pet to stay as healthy as possible. You have a vested interest in making people remain secure.
Well, and I think it's one of the important things about this industry, unlike some industries where when you look at a product, people are buying the product for their own purposes. But in the insurance industry, our objectives and our members' objectives are aligned, especially as we move into this protection space, right? It's financially beneficial to us as Nationwide to protect our members from bad things happening, and it's financially and emotionally beneficial to our members for us to help them do that as well. So we have those aligned shared interests, and it really fits very well together. And it's fairly unique in this industry that you're able to align the interests of the customer and the interests of the company so well.
Excellent. Well, one of the obviously, you job titles I always get very messy with, but you're in charge of the innovation at Nationwide.
So I am part of the technology strategy and innovation team. I run the front of the house for our technology innovation team. And technology innovation, what we do is we look at new and emerging technologies. We identify the new what's possibles that those technologies create, and then we match that up with customer use cases so that we can run experiments. We have a back of the house, a technology lab team that does nothing but build full prototypes all day long. We've got 10 full stack engineers that do that for us, and so we work very closely with that team to help build out those prototypes and test out and experiment whether customers are actually interested in the innovations that we're trying to create. Nationwide's a little bit unique in that we actually have a couple of different innovation teams. We have our technology innovation team, and then we have our digital and innovation team. The digital innovation team actually looks at transformative innovation as well as digital transformation, and looks at it from a desirability perspective. Can we identify innovations that customers need, that they want, that we're not providing to them today? But they also look at it from a viability perspective. How do these innovations line up against the industry that we serve versus our competition, and can we make money on that? So the combination of our team and their team really creates some unique opportunities to drive innovation in some interesting ways.
Excellent. Well, how do you, and just talk me through again, if you had any examples, how do we go from that spark of an idea all the way to implementation? And what kind of is the journey when pushing areas such as AR, AI, VR, and actually delivering something that's going to have an impact on people's lives?
Yeah, so we have a fairly simple process we use within my team to go from an idea and turn it into a prototype. It's a simple process, 6-step process. It starts by taking the idea and translating it into a concept. The concept really focuses in on articulating the idea in the context of customer, right? We want to be really clear on what's the opportunity with the customer, what's the the state of belief, what's the way that we're going to solve this, and then what's the reason to believe that Nationwide is the right person to solve this problem, right? So we articulate a concept, and then after we've socialized that concept, gotten feedback on it, we continue to believe that it's still valuable. Then we move on to a canvas. Our innovation canvas is modeled after a business model canvas. It's really designed to flesh out viability. It's designed to help us understand the value that the customer will get out of this, and the financial impact on Nationwide, right? And so we work through that. Again, socialize it, get feedback on it, and then determine whether we want to move forward from there. And then we move into a pitch. So a pitch is where we, just like a startup would pitch a venture capital firm to get money, we do the same thing internally. We create a pitch, we socialize it with potential stakeholders, get feedback, iterate on the pitch, and then we have a pitch meeting where we bring all the potential stakeholders together and pitch the idea, and then try to get a sponsor to sign up for putting their name on this idea and supporting it as we take it forward. Again, and each of these stages, it's key to understand that these are iterative processes. The important thing is to get an idea down on paper and put some meat around it, but then to talk to people about it, because you may believe that your idea is fabulous, but not every idea is a good idea, right? And the only way you can truly find out whether an idea is a good idea is by talking to real people, real customers, real business leaders, by talking to people and getting feedback and making adjustments as a result of that, right? So we've gone through our concept, we've gone through our canvas, we've delivered our pitch, a sponsor has said they want to lean into this idea. Then what we do in step 4 is we create a learning plan, right? We're running an experiment, and so we want to bring a scientific method to this experiment. We need to figure out a couple of hypotheses that we're going to test with the prototype that we're going to build. So we create a learning plan to be real clear on what do we believe, what are the hypotheses we're going to test, what does good look like, what does bad look like, and after we've written that down, then we build a prototype. We build a prototype, put it in front of customers, iterate on that prototype a couple of times, and then once we're done with our prototype, the last stage in the process is a lessons learned, right? We do a retro, we figure out what we learned through the process, we make sure we've got some documentation so that we can share our insights with others, and then if this is an idea that is successful and we've gotten good feedback and we've learned what we wanted to learn and we believe it's worth moving forward, then we'll move into a build stage where we actually build the scalable product that we'll take to market. So, but that's the 6-step process we use: concept, canvas, pitch, learning plan, prototype, lessons learned.
That's brilliant. That's a very kind of good way of filtering down to, again, as you said, not every idea is a good idea. Not every solution has a problem that you may be experiencing yourselves. With are there any examples you can think of where an idea has followed all 6 processes?
An idea has followed all 6. Sure. Well, I mean, we've had a number of ideas that have kind of gone through, made it all the way through. We've had a number of ideas that didn't, right? So an example of an idea that made it all the way through our process and we ended up taking to market. We had this hypothesis that small business owners, Nationwide's the #1 small business insurance provider in the U.S., depending on how you count, and we had a hypothesis that small business owners needed help running their businesses, and so we envisioned a small business digital advisor that we would leverage APIs from Intuit QuickBooks and some of the data that we knew about the small business owner, some of the data and the small business itself, some of the data that Intuit knows about the small business owner, and with their permission, we would leverage that data to give them contextual, customized advice on how to better run their business. So we took that through the process. We got really good feedback every step along the way. And when we eventually took that into market, what we ended up finding when we took it to market was that the path to get people to the app was so kind of the marketing lead gen process to get people to try the app was a little bit more expensive than we believed, and so ultimately we weren't able to get enough customers to actually try out the app for the app to be successful in the market, in the wild, so to speak. But we did get really good feedback from the people that did try it. And so even sometimes when you have a great idea, sometimes that's not good enough, right? You have to also have an idea that you can get people to partake of. And so you have to have both of those. But that one did go through our entire process and was successfully launched into market. One that went through our process that we stopped along the way, for example, was a project called Trip Replay. In Trip Replay, the idea we had was, could we create a visual representation of an auto accident from the connected car and telematics data that we had from the vehicle. And so we spent some time looking at the data that we had. We went through our process. We created a prototype, put it in front of our analysts, and what we found there was that the ability to visualize the accident with the capability that we had, obviously this didn't include like dash cam videos or anything like that, it was just sensor data. Our ability to visualize the accident was interesting, but it wasn't fundamentally a step change benefit to our claims analysts. And so we killed that project, put it on the shelf, and went from there. So sometimes innovations go all the way, sometimes they don't, and you just have to be okay with that.
Absolutely. I think if every single one went all the way through, then something's definitely gone wrong.
That's right.
Well, one of the other areas on the technology side that I don't think is unique to insurance, or to be honest, I don't think it's unique to any industry, is you end up with quite a lot of legacy systems. So when building up innovations now, with building up various tech stacks, how do you try and mitigate against that? So in 10 years' time, you're not looking back and thinking, what were we thinking having this as the foundation? How do you tend to build to maintain disruptability?
Well, so
tricky question for you.
Yeah, that's a big one. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. So one of the things I've been looking at lately is a book called Designing for Digital, and that book talks about the 5 building blocks for digital. One of the building blocks that I'll talk about is the idea of an operational backbone, right? And what that kind of states is that an operational backbone is your core systems for the company, the systems that need to be stable, that need to be that don't change that much, that kind of are your core processes for getting work done. Those systems need to be reliable. They need to be up 100% of the time. They need to be stable. You need to have a different way of thinking about those. The second building block that I'll mention for this conversation is the digital platform. In the digital platform, you are much more fast moving. You are needing to be able to run experiments with customers, find out what customers need, customers want. You need to think about the world in a different way. And so for me, it's really about making sure that you've got the right operational backbone in place, and then you're able to interact that operational backbone through APIs with your digital platform. And your digital platform then has the flexibility to change, to support new products, to do all things you want to do to be able to innovate in the world that we live in. A good example of where we've been focusing on. We've been focusing on this broadly across our business for the last 10 years. But in the pet business specifically, I'll talk about that for a second. We actually just completed a pet transformation program where we have redesigned and re-implemented or modernized our operational backbone for the pet insurance business. And so what that enables us now to do is to connect that operational backbone, which is now stable, productive, and allows us to have a base to work off of. We can now connect that to a new digital platform for the pet business that we're enabling, and that'll allow us to drive more innovation across the organization. If you don't have an operational backbone that's API enabled, that has the ability for an organization to connect their digital platform into it, it's really tough to do the innovations that you want to do. And we've just kind of enabled that in our pet insurance space, and we're really excited about what's to come now with our pet business.
Well, we got to go into that. What is to come with the pet business? I asked this because my wife has brought genetic tests for our dogs to see are there any plans to bring in pretty out there kind of technologies and data sets to deal with insurance. So we're going to find out whether they are 100% husky or whether they're actually part Chihuahua.
Yeah, that's a great question. We are currently not planning on implementing genetic tests at this time. Not here at Nationwide. We believe there's a whole bunch of low-hanging fruit that we can tackle in this space before we get to that level of complexity. It's definitely something that our operational backbone would enable us to do down the road, but it's not something we're looking at this point in time. We are starting to have conversations though about similar sorts of things like pet wearables, right? We've not yet started to implement that, but we are having some conversations about the potential role of wearables in the pet space and how could that play a beneficial role to pet owners to help keep their dogs and cats healthy and safe.
Excellent. This is the thing that I love about insurance is it tends to encompass almost every single other industry as well. Cars, houses, pets. I was even reading that you can get it's quite a big business around things like pirate insurance. But looking back to pets, what aside from things like the wearables for it, what are some of the other things happening within that space? Have you seen a bit of an upward spike of people buying pets because of the pandemic?
Yes, we're having a lot of fun in the pet business right now. We are the number one pet insurer in the U.S. as well. We have a wide, diverse business, so we've got a lot of different areas of insurance and financial services that we support. But in pet, we are the number one in the U.S., and so the pandemic pet boom has really driven our business forward quite a bit. So we're seeing a huge spike in people onboarding onto the product. It's been a huge growth area for us over the last 5 years, but the pandemic has really caused a big spike in new policies. It's also starting to cause a big spike in claims as well, and so trying to keep up with that is a key piece of what we as an organization are trying to do. In fact, our claims team in the pet world, from a business perspective, and our pet IT team and our technology innovation team are actually partnering on some unique uses of artificial intelligence in the claims space to try to really drive productivity and speed into the claims processing for the pet business. So we're really trying to figure out how to make that overall experience better, even in the context of a business that is growing 10 to 20% year over year, which is hard to keep up with.
With that in mind, the last thing I kind of want to ask is, what's been the most bizarre animal that you've been requested to insure?
Well, that's a really good question. So one of the things that's kind of cool about Nationwide is we actually just recently launched a new avian and exotic pet insurance product. So we do insure a wide variety of interesting animals, including parrots, rabbits, water dragons, hedgehogs, and we've even got a picture of a pot-bellied pig on our wall in the pet business that we insure. So we've got a lot of interesting exotic animals that we take care of. And in fact, an interesting stat, over 15% of U.S. pet owners have an exotic animal. And so since Nationwide is currently the only company that I'm aware of to offer that kind of coverage, that provides a really unique offering and capability for us. In fact, the other story I'll tell you, and for those of folks that have an exotic animal and want to learn more, go to everypetinsurance.com, and you can learn more about how we insure exotic animals. But one of the cool stories is that Nationwide does obviously also insure dogs and cats. And as a fun fact, we were the very first pet health insurance policy in the U.S. was delivered to cover Lassie. So you may remember the TV show Lassie. Lassie was actually covered by Nationwide as veterinary pet insurance. We covered Lassie. So
that's an amazing piece of InsurTech trivia. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Where can we find out more about yourself, and what's the best way of getting in contact?
Yeah, so if you want to find out about Nationwide, and you can go to nationwide.com. If you want to find out about some of the pet insurance products that we talked a little bit about, for exotic animals, everypetinsurance.com, or just petinsurance.com. If you would like to connect with me and have a conversation, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or send me an email at mike.fulton@nationwide.com.